Welcome back. It's your boy, Sir Socrates. We're playing Mass Effect again. Um, cool. I'm off to a hot start. I love opening up every single video with talking about how I can't record a video. It's really cool, man. Whenever I write anything, I do the same thing. I write about how I don't know how I'm going to write about what I'm going to write about. It's really cool. You know, it makes me very unique because I do the same thing every time. But welcome back to Mass Effect, which we just played. On the last episode. Now, for me, it's been probably about 2 weeks since I recorded, or a week and a half or something like that. Which is really disappointing because I really wanted to talk about what I was talking about. And for the whole week, I was thinking, oh, I need to get back on and talk about the Ukraine route because, hold on, I just realized I didn't set a timer. So set a time for like 55 minutes and get back into it. But I was like, oh, I was talking about the Ukraine earlier, and if I'm gonna be real, I probably was not making that much sense about. And I said a lot of things that I would like to clarify, but, but, it's been a week and a half. So, I don't know exactly what I said, and I had a bunch of arguments prepared, and I just let them fall in my head. So, we're gonna try and get back there, and I'm just gonna start talking about it, right? Because I think I said something about it being a war of propaganda, or hopefully I did, because that's what I meant to say. And I think that's a little bit of a dicey thing to say because it feels very invalidating. I use that word a lot, but it's a useful word, to be honest. You know, to be extremely honest with you, it's a very important word for today's world, huh? Right? Because we're talking about feelings a lot in today's world, so validation is important. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and assume that was the way back to the ship. But that probably sounds very invalidating to the actual atrocities going on in the Ukraine. Because there are actual things going on in the Ukraine. I don't mean to say it's not real. Because I think that's like it's like a QAnon type thing to say, really. Which I'm not really that okay with. And I think it's it sounds very like Putin positive. Oh, Civ 6 is ready to play. I'm gonna play Civ 6. I don't know if I'll record a video for it, but I don't know. That's a fun game. Anyway, I get that, you know. I understand it sounds insensitive and probably is. Um, but I don't care, right? I don't care. And the reason I don't care is because I don't mean to say it. I mean, when I say it, I don't mean it uh, to totally invalidate the war, to totally invalidate that it is a reality, right? Because I feel like that's usually what the Russia in favor argument is for, bro. It's like, oh yeah, this shouldn't even be a thing, bro. Why didn't they just roll over and die? You know, that's not my argument. Is that Ukraine, the fighting is necessary, and Putin is the aggressor, and it's really just heartbreaking that it has to happen at all. And I say all that, and I'm gonna say a but here, right? A but. I do feel strange because I can't say what I mean. But I think the way that the war has been covered in the Western world is very concerning to me. Um, because I think it's being covered in a similar way that it's being covered in the Russian world, or we're going to say the Eastern Sphere. Oh, I think I do remember a little bit because I think I did mention the Russia-China axis, and it's not a legitimate alliance because there's a lot of animosity between those two countries historically, to say the least. Um, but in terms of control on information, I think Russia and China have a very similar mentality and tell a very similar story and have a control level that is on par with each other. Right? Whoa, what's going on? We're doing it again? Why are we doing it again? This is why I can't talk about things during Mass Effect, because, like, I don't know what's happening. But whatever. We're back here. We're back to Mass Effect where I don't know what's happening. A Mass Effect 3 where I don't know where I'm going. And I don't know what the story is.
I am sorry. The images were so vivid.
Right. I call it that because the censorship is creating an environment that's very similar to each other, right? Like in Russia and China. Now, I think a lot of the times when we talk about propaganda, it's easy to, like, I don't know. There's something called third-person effect in terms of censorship on things.
You must have seen
that is basically you yourself think that what you ingest in terms of media is going to affect you less than a hypothetical third person, right? So, like, I personally might like a slasher horror film, right? But if you were to say, Lucas, you know, Mr. Sir Socrates, what do you, I mean, do you, damn, I'm on fire today, huh? I'm putting all the words together like a musician, bro. Really, truly. Lucas, would you be okay with, like, a kid brother watching a slasher horror film? I'd say no. And there should be censorship or restrictions placed on who is allowed to watch slasher horror films, right? Like, that's why we have PG-13 ratings or something. And I think that third-person effect, like, it interjects itself when we talk about propaganda in foreign nations. Like, when we talk about propaganda in China, we're like, oh, they're propagandized. They're, like, totally in this delusion, like, yeah, I know personally I don't respond to any of China's propaganda, but we assume that it's totally effective to the Chinese population, right? And I think that's incorrect. You know, I'm not personally Chinese or have any experience in that nation, but I'm going to go ahead and assume that there are people, and a vast majority of people, who do not respond or like that censorship or want that censorship. And I understand that, you know, it's there because of a people's revolution. You know, it's literally called that. But I think on an individual-to-individual basis,
we got a transmission coming in from the Citadel.
Most people probably understand what's going on, right? But, like, that happens here in the westernized world. Most people understand what's going on, but they still get infected by fake news. It's a buzzword.
I'll take it in the comm room.
We're going to talk to the council. Hold on. Or not.
Commander. We got a transmission coming in from the Citadel. Top priority clearance.
Do I have to go to the...
I'll take it in the comm room.
Oh, I have to go to the comm room. Right, because I know where the comm room is. Totally, Shep. Hopefully this is the comm room. I don't think it is, though. Wow. I'm very disjointed today, bro. It's kind of late, and I was sort of in a roll, so I was like, let me record the video. But I don't know, it's not happening. It's not happening well, to say the least. So hopefully I get into some sort of rhythm. And let's just take a break from me trying to get into rhythm to do this little bit of the story, alright? We received information. Alright, good. Good.
I'll take all the help I can get.
Good shit.
We've received an urgent message from one of our infiltration regiments in the Traverse.
Go ahead.
I'm listening.
We currently have several infiltration units scattered throughout the border regions of
Huh.
Citadel space.
I could have asked a question for him to clarify, and he still just clarified. Can you just tell me what the intel was?
Unfortunately, the message we received was little more than static. The infiltration team must be in a situation
It's a
where
trap.
they can't set up proper
It's a
interstellar
trap.
communications. But the message was sent on a channel reserved for mission-critical communications. Whatever they were trying to tell us, we know it was important. Considering your interest in Saren, we thought you might want to investigate this. Find out what happened to our team. The signal originated from the planet Vermeer.
I'll look into it.
It's a trap.
The Council prefers not to become involved in the specifics of Spectre activities. We only want you to be aware of all your options, including Vermeer. Good luck, Commander Shepard. We will keep you advised if we learn anything else.
Okay. Why wouldn't they want to know what I was doing, though? Maybe it's illegal. Alright. Should I get back to it? Alright. Alright. Let's do it. Let's get back to it, right? Let's start talking about what I'm going to talk about. And what I am going to talk about is propaganda. Because I think we as Americans like to think we don't really do that. Or we don't do it in a way that affects us, right? And I don't know what group you are in of America groups. There's a ton of them now. A ton of these things that Americans sort themselves by. But usually when I'm discussing Americans, there's two threads of thought, and that is the Republican and the Democrat thought, right? And both of these people, if you identify as a Republican or a Democrat, you think you cannot be infected by propaganda, right? Can we say that? Can I say that? Everyone agree with me? Right? Like, if you're on the left, there's no way you're reading some dumb QAnon article about how, I don't know, Biden just formed this pizza restaurant where they sold all the children. Right? Like, if you're a Democrat, you're like, there's no way that works on me, bro. And if you're a Republican, like, if you open up like a Vox video or something, bro, you're like, there's no way I'm getting infected, bro. You right? But we know, right? And even if like there's a little bit of cognitive dissonance here, right? Oh, this is a nice looking world, bro. Cognitive dissonance where it's like, oh, we both think the other side's story is propaganda, right? Hold on, what was I trying to say? Damn, I should not have done this at this time period, bro, of the day, because I am lost, bro. I'm losing myself talking, so that's fun. But if you're thinking this is a terrible video, I don't blame you, bro, because this is a terrible video. I mean, this is a terrible start, bro. It just simply is. Which is cool. It's cool. I haven't recorded a truly terrible video
Commander,
yet, I don't think. I think most of them are probably pretty boring. But this one's just terrible. This is helping. This is helping. Because it's not helping me get in rhythm. I'll tell you that. How can I help?
What do you need, Admiral?
Maybe I should just play Mass Effect. Like, I watch other gameplay videos and they just talk about the game, and that seems to be a good, like, grounder, you know. This grounds us in the video, this video game. And if I never talk about the video game, how are we supposed to be grounded in the video, bro? You know, I'm just talking aimlessly, just talking about nothing. Alright, I'm getting closer. I'm getting closer to in rhythm. Alright, I can sort of feel it. VI support is critical. What you mean by that, bro? Okay. So we're talking about cognitive dissonance. I actually just wrote a piece called Cognitive Dissonance. That's why I'm using this term. But that is a very good way of seeing the third person effect in effect, kind of. Because as a Democrat, I am a registered Democrat. If you were to ask me if I am a
Don't worry,
Democrat, I
Admiral.
would say no,
I'll take that thing out.
because I
I
don't
know Spectre's
like the
answered the
Democratic
council,
Party.
You're still
All
human.
right, but I am a
You're
registered
still part of
Democrat.
the Alliance military.
Um,
And right now, we need you.
and
The VI
me
patrols
personally,
all
I'd say,
facilities,
oh,
weapons, drones,
I
and
am
automated defenses.
better,
You're the only one that can pull
better,
this
quote
off,
unquote,
Shepard.
than a
Good luck.
Republican, because I don't get affected by that Republican propaganda, you know, like we were discussing. And that's probably accurate, because a lot of it is propaganda, right? All right, we're gonna go ahead and say, listen, bro, I'm a Democrat, bro. I'm a Democrat. I don't want to be a Democrat. I want to be like a communist, right? But that's not that's not an option in America. So we're Democrat, right? In this video, we're considering the the GOP rhetoric as propaganda, right? We're taking the boys with us, bro. I don't care. I don't care, bro. This is the team, bro. I can't record a Mass Effect video without Ash.
Infiltration team.
I can't do it. I mean, maybe we replace Tali, but she's useful, bro. She's got like skills. This is a beautiful world. Look
Get
at
you in
this.
underneath their radar, Commander.
But I can't do it without Ash. I'm sorry. Maybe if someone like tells me they want to meet the other characters, alright, I'll think about it. But when it's just me here, bro, you know, I'm still sitting at like 0 views on most of these videos. So if it's just me, I'm playing with Ash. All right, don't get cocky, Joker. I'm always gonna shit talk Joker given the opportunity, bro. You know, fuck off, Joker. Oh, I'm in the water.
Towers are offline. Joker out.
Joker out. This man. All right, we're back at the car, back and ready to go. All right, we're gonna accept it as a given, right? That most of this. What are these things? I'm sorry. What are you doing here? Hello? We're gonna accept it as a given that stream of thought in American consciousness is the main actor in the propaganda, right? But here's the thing, right? We're gonna say, yeah, that's propaganda, right? We all agree with that, right? I'm putting my foot down on that, right? But a lot of Republicans would say there's liberal propaganda, you know? A lot of you would say, you know, John Oliver, you know, he's brainwashing you, you know? He's brainwashing me. And honestly, you're probably not wrong, bro. I probably am being brainwashed. It's just something that feels good, you know, to me. To get brainwashed to. Right? And I think John Oliver is different. Because I think that show is usually fairly well researched, in my opinion. As opposed to a segment on Fox News. But the point stands, bro. It's like, to a lot of people, that would be considered categorically false. Or how about another example? John Oliver does a lot of like factual stuff where he just is sort of giving you facts from studies and stuff with a very clear liberal bias. But what about like a YouTube channel, right? I watch like this socialist YouTuber called Second Thought, right? That's straight up something that would be considered propaganda by the GOP, right? Now, I don't agree that it's like categorically false or trying to, I don't know, lead me astray, right? But a lot of people's opinions, I have been led astray, right? So what I'm trying to get to, and maybe I should just say it so that I can find my place again. Oh my god, I'm having flashbacks to like the second episode of this thing, bro, where I'm like, I'm just gonna say what I mean and then try and prove my point later on, right? Oh, wow. That's a great idea. Why didn't I remember to do that? Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that the Russian propaganda, the way they're selling the war, right? I think Like, it actually makes a lot of sense. And I know how that sounds, right? That's why I opened up with, listen, I'm not pro-Putin, but I don't think the war is fake. Yeah, yada yada yada. Right? Because I know what that means. It's for me to say, oh, that probably makes sense. But I don't mean it makes sense in that it's right. I mean it makes sense as to why people believe it. Right? Why people believe it. And I think in order to make... Bro, I'm shooting that motherfucker straight in the dome, bro, and he's like not taking any damage. It makes sense why it would work as propaganda, is what I'm saying. And I needed to bring that thread, that fucking thing I said about being brainwashed by socialist propaganda. I need to bring that up because I like being brainwashed by socialist propaganda, right? Like, I like being brainwashed by that stuff, right? So there must be something about the Russian propaganda that people like, right? And I think... Oh. Clearly there's strong threads of nationalism in what Putin says, right? You know, this is revenge for the Great War. Or like we're just finishing the job, yada yada yada. You know, that's pretty standard stuff. We're like we're gonna make it all militaristic, all about being an American, right? And I say being an American because I think it's a lot more complicated than that. And I say being an American because I think we have sort of a very, very high degree of familiarity with that type of propaganda as Americans. That's how the Iraq War started, bro. Nationalist propaganda. Ever heard of Pat Tillman? Pat Tillman was critical oftentimes. Pat Tillman was actually a football player, and because of 9/11, he enlisted in the army. But towards the end of his life, he was actually very, very critical of the war. And very suspiciously, he was killed by friendly fire. Now, there's government reports that are like, you know, it was a legitimate accident. You know, we didn't actually just try and kill him because he didn't like the war, you know. And you know, I would like to believe that the American government and that the army didn't just fucking shoot some dude in the back of the head because he didn't like the fucking war in Iraq. But you know, they do a lot of shit like that. So it's definitely a possibility. But I will say that the public information available does say that it was an accident, and that Tillman died from friendly fire due to an accident. And it was a very poorly handled mission. I think it was some sort of mission. I don't remember what it was precisely. But anyway, Pat Tillman was killed in the line of duty due to friendly fire, and potentially because he was critical of the war. But this information didn't come out until months, years, I think years after his death. And it was such a great story for America, you know, like a football player literally giving up his millions of dollars salary to go fight in the war. Like, it's perfect, bro. And he died, and the government covered it up. They did not release information about how he died. They basically were like, let people assume, or flat out and came out and said like, oh, like he died serving his country, and like he did, but like the circumstances were very, you know, unique, and his stance on the war was not one of support. He would not have been okay with supporting the war after his death. You know, like he would not have been okay with his likeness being used in that way. But it was, and it was for a long time, and it still kinda is. Like there was a game I watched, and they brought up Pat Tillman, and it was basically like, what a hero, and like he is a hero, but he's a hero because he spoke out against America, because America's a fucking shithead, bro, right? Like that's why he's a hero. And he got lied to by his country because propaganda, and since we're talking about propaganda, after 9/11 was very effective at convincing people there was a threat to the nation. And yeah, it's understandable why that convinced people, but the point I'm making, am I making a point? I just want to talk about Pat Tillman because I was recently alerted of this. I'm not alerted, I've known about it for a while, but I was recently refamiliarized with it. So, I'm on it again. I'm on this Pat Tillman wave. But it's an example of the type of propaganda that we usually just, this is how we describe propaganda in America, because I think this is what we've been exposed to for the most part. And this Pat Tillman story is an example of that, where our sense of nationalism and patriotism was exploited. And Pat Tillman himself was exploited in that same manner because... Why is it not repairing, man? Huh? Pat Tillman himself was exploited in that same manner because of the propaganda after 9/11, right? Where it was all about patriotism, all about saving the nation. Like, this is a threat to our democracy. We need to go into the Middle East and restore democracy. That was the messaging. It was very effective. Caused a lot of Islamophobia. Caused a lot of militarism. Right? And... shit. I think it's important, though, that we're talking about it. Because... yes, it was about patriotism. But it was also about 9/11, right? It was about... and it was about it was about racism. Here we go. Now I'm on a thread. Now I'm back where I need to be. It was so effective because we already hated... damn, that was a very stupid death. I just did it because I'm distracted and I accidentally ran to the shot. But it gives me more opportunity to at some point make sense. And hopefully I've made sense at a few points, but I do feel like I've been rambling and haven't gotten there yet. But we're getting there. Well, I'll get to somewhere. I swear. It was 9/11, right? It was 9/11 and we were like, oh, that makes a lot of sense actually, because they actually are a threat. Everybody in the Middle East actually is a threat. Right? And it made sense at the time. It's terrible in hindsight. But I'm trying, when I'm analyzing the coverage of the Ukraine war, I'm trying to see what that is. What is that catalyst that is allowing Putin's supposed propaganda campaign be successful enough to actually carry this out? Because here's the thing, though we like to talk about Russia and what's going on like it's a complete failure, and maybe in a strategic sense it is a complete failure. I am hesitant to say that Russia or Putin really cares about the land gained in this war. Like, I don't know if that's the point. Like similar to the Iraq war. Like, was the point to like go in and take over Iraq? Like, no. The point was Dick Cheney wanted to fucking fund his military lobbyists, and we kept a forever war going on in the Middle East because it was hugely profitable for corporations in America, right? That's why it happened. That's why it kept going on. It was economic motivation, right? And the only reason, like, it went on for so long was because for, a better part of the early history of those wars, most of America felt completely morally justified, right? And I don't know how Putin could get this war to go, could be doing things like this and mobilizing the population like he is, without that similar degree of complete moral superiority. Now, I understand that the political system in Russia is different, and notice how I say different, and not like worse or like more oligarchical, because I am of the opinion that America operates functionally as an oligarchy. I understand that the access to voting is it's a lot more prevalent. But I think the ones who actually dictate policy change in America are huge corporate interest groups who have the money to pay lobbyists and donate the proper amount of money to the politicians, right? And that's, I think, in my opinion, kind of undebatable. Like, that is just how it works. If you have money, you have a lobbyist in Washington, probably a whole team of them. They get to have fucking lunches with senators and representatives and yada yada yada. You get to send millions of dollars to politicians. It's like, yeah, technically, like, we do have a democracy, but if you're a politician, bro, and you're getting $10 million or something from somebody, bro, are we really all that surprised that you're voting in their favor, right? Like, that's just bound to happen because I got paid $10 million by you, bro. Like, I fucking love you, right? Like, if any of y'all gave me $10 million, bro, we would be best fucking friends, alright? And that's a fact. So that's like why I'm like, oh, America functions as an oligarchy, because yeah, we have democratically elected officials, but they serve corporate interest and for the most part do not represent their constituents at all. At all, really, for the most part. So in Russia, which is an oligarchy, but you know, they have votes. Obviously they're rigged, but like they put on the show of a democracy, right? But I don't know if the corporate stranglehold on the Russian population is so severe that we can say, oh, they can throw the whole country into war, mobilize all of these young men like that, right? And nobody will do anything, right? I don't know if I'm making any sense. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that there's no way these oligarchical figures in Russia have enough power to completely dictate the war, right? Like, they need to have some level of public support, otherwise the entire nation would be thrown into complete disrepair, because war is tough, it kills, it costs money, you have to go get more jobs, like, in order to feed your family. People start leaving necessary industries and you have to sacrifice some in favor of others. Like, it's a countrywide endeavor, and like required participation. Like, you cannot just go to war. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, Putin, yeah, he declared war, right? But you can't just go to war. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but what I'm trying to say is that the propaganda is working, right? At some level. And probably, just based off my, like, hypothetical theorizing, probably on the level post 9/11. And I need to say that because I think the coverage of Russia and of Putin's propaganda campaign seems to say that it's one completely disregardable, right? Like, nothing he's saying is true. And yeah, we're gonna get to that. Nothing he's saying is true. But it's not wrong all the way. You know, like, it's not a complete lie. For something about it works. And something about it actually works on the Russian public, otherwise there wouldn't be a war. So what is it? Right, obviously, I don't know if this is obvious, but let me give you a little background, since it's something I've actually read up on. It's very complex. In the 90s, I think it was Gorbachev. I'm gonna say Gorbachev, but or in the 80s, 90s is when Ukraine declared independence. I think it was 1992. Let's see, 1991 actually. All right, let's look up Gorbachev giving Crimea to Ukraine. All right, in 1954, Gorbachev, who was a Ukrainian, right, gave the Crimean Peninsula to the, like, Republic of Ukraine. Yeah, this is still the Soviet Union. I mean, I don't know if it's obvious. I keep saying obviously. I don't know how well people know Soviet Union history. But in the 50s, the Soviet Union was still going strong. Gorbachev was a guy. He was a prime minister. Or I don't know if they call it the prime minister, but a prime minister, effectively, of the Soviet Union. And he granted this piece of land to Ukraine. And it didn't really matter because, you know, it was still the Soviet Union. Everyone considered everything in the Soviet Union Russia, right? So it didn't really matter at the time. But when Ukraine declared independence in 1991, which we just looked up, Crimea went with it. And Crimea is a very, very strategically important position for Russia. Because it's a huge, huge, huge nation. I mean, yeah, it's seen as gigantic. But they actually have very limited access to the oceans. They have the ports up in the North Sea, or the Baltic Sea. Or they have the Baltic Sea, the North Sea. Yeah, they do have the North Sea. But, like, up there by, like, Königsberg. I don't know if that reference makes sense, but top left of Russia, there's a little, like, tail that comes out. Like, that's access to the North Sea. And then you have up by, I think it's Leningrad, like, access to the Baltics. But those aren't, like, huge, like, trade centers for Russia. Really, it's all about the Black Sea, down there in the Mediterranean. And this is why Crimea is super important, because, you know, Russia has maybe, like, 3 reliable port cities in this huge fucking nation of theirs. And Crimea is the most politically and economically, strategically strong positions of theirs, right? Or used to be. Before Ukraine declared independence, this was the Soviet Union's, like, claim to fame. That wasn't their claim to fame. But actually, the Russian Empire was trying to get control of the Bosphorus for so long, man. I think it was it was an empress, I think, who actually went and got the fucking Bosphorus secured, bro. It's kind of cool, but also not important. Anyway, when this was given away, Russia actually got significantly weaker, right? Like, in terms of economic sway. You know, can you not, bro? In terms of economic sway. And so, for the longest time, you know, Russia and Ukraine have had pretty good relations because they've effectively operated as a Russian puppet, with friendly governments being installed by various Russian leaders. So it didn't really matter because Ukraine was giving docking rights to Russia. But with Zelensky, and Zelensky is very modern. This is something that has become an issue. Oh, did the doors open now? I had to kill everybody before the doors open. But Zelensky is representative of like a democratic Ukraine, so that's why I'm saying that. But when Ukraine was... Oh my god, I'm not making any sense. I'm trying to tell a story, I'm trying to give background, bro, and it's like, I don't have a... Damn, that guy can like kill you in one hit, can't he? I just let him run towards me. I'm just like that, bro. Just built different. Anyway, at a certain point, you know, Ukraine and Russia stopped being very good friends because Russia is corrupt as hell. And at some point, there was a democracy.
Down, Commander. On approach to the Solarian base now. Out.
And Russia lost its talking rights in Crimea. And lost control over the Black Sea. So... there is a strategic reason for Putin to want Ukraine, right? And it isn't just like, oh, they used to be part of the Soviet Union and he wants them. It's because there's an actual economic like motivator, and it's mainly this this port. But the reason well, the reason I am bringing that up for a second, let me make it. Let me open the gate. Hold on. I'm bringing that up because I'm providing background, and that's not the reason that the war is going on, right? I mean, it is the reason the war is going on, but we're trying to get to the propaganda of it, right? This area, Crimea specifically, and the Donetsk area, actually, I'm going to bring that up too, was largely resettled. Oh, Catherine the Great, here we go. Largely resettled by Catherine the Great, I think, or various degrees of Russian control. I don't know who it is, the Soviet Union, whatever, I don't know. At some point, there were a lot of native, like, I think Ukrainians or Greeks or Mediterranean, I don't know what ethnicity in the Crimean Peninsula, but genocide. This is a form of genocide was conducted in the area where native ethnicities were bussed out and native Russians were bussed in until the ethnic makeup of the area is predominantly Russian, like 90-something% Russian. It was not like that before. China's doing something similar, actually. Well, Tibet was a few years ago. But in the, I don't know, the most western part of their nation, the Uyghur Muslims, is who's being targeted by China in this similar repopulation, recolonization type form of genocide, where we're literally just replacing people who live there with people who live in our country. But it was so effective whenever they did it. Soviet Union, Catherine the Great, I don't know who it was, did it, that even today, the genetic makeup of the place is almost exclusively Russian, right? And so, in legal terms, the peninsula of Crimea belonged to Ukraine because Gorbachev gave it to them in the 50s, right? And nobody really cared because everyone was considered Russian within the Soviet Union at this time. Everyone was considered Russian. But you have Ukraine then declare independence, you know, with the dissolution of the whole fucking thing. Oh, that is a goddamn rocket, bro. No, what is he doing? Stop. Oh, he's dead. Okay. So culturally, when that peninsula was given to Ukraine, it still remained ethnically Russian. You know, at the time, it didn't really matter because Ukrainian-Russian relations were super friendly still. And for the most part, I mean, the languages are very similar. So who cares, right? Like, whatever, bro, right? But once relations start souring between these two nations, and you have actual, like, nationalistic acrimony between people, then that entirely ethnic Russian population in Crimea, I think it starts having a different sort of implication. And I don't. This is the reason I brought up the third person effect at the beginning, because I think individual Ukrainians and Russians still have a lot of love for each other and understand that there's a very, like, important cultural, like, similarity between the two nations. Right? And I don't want to suggest, like, oh, because the entire peninsula was Russian, like, they wanted to be Russians, right? Like, no, right? I don't know. Who cares? I assume at a certain point you go, alright, I'm not Russian, I'm Ukrainian. Because they've been living in this nation for whatever, and who really cares what the lines were drawn or what country I live in, bro? Like, what the fuck? But, because of that genetic makeup, it's super, like, easy to suggest that they would want to be part of Russia. You know what I mean? Like, it's super easy to make that logical leap.
So what are we supposed to do now?
To be like, oh, they're all ethnic Russians, and Gorbachev, who was a Ukrainian, and was kind of a dumbass, and potentially, like, a Western puppet, like, I don't know, right, gave this land to Ukraine. And then, like, just sort of fucked off, right? Like, Gorbachev just sort of did that, and then it just sort of was like, that's what it is now.
What's the situation?
And then for it to dissolve, like, what I'm trying to say is, like, if you tell that story to a Russian, I think it's kind of easy to see how someone feels very, like,
That's just great.
ticked off, or like they were stolen from, or like they're rescuing their brothers from a foreign power, because Gorbachev is kind of like that, bro. I'm not making any sense. I know I'm not making any sense.
We couldn't understand your transmission.
Which is unfortunate, because I opened up this video trying to sort out all my thoughts on Ukraine.
So what have you found?
And I think the main thing I'm trying to say is that there isn't legitimacy to Putin's propaganda campaign, in the sense that what he's saying is accurate.
What's Saren researching?
He's using the facility to breed an army of
I think there is legitimacy in how effective the story he can tell, given the facts of, you know, of the situation. Like, I think there is validity in that, like, how effective that story is. I think it's important to say that because in America, and I'm in America, so I only know about America, but in the Western world,
Almost unstoppable.
it's basically like Putin is lying flat out, right? And there were those videos of protests, I think, when the war first broke out, but for the most part, it seems like the messaging, like, is, it's Putin's war, it's Putin's war, it's him being a dumbass, he's hurting the Russian people, and he is hurting the Russian people, but, like, he is the one in control or command, and I don't know. I don't know about that, bro. Because I think the story is effective that it's effective in I don't know. I don't know, man. What I'm trying to say is that it's actually dangerous. Like,
It'll be
we
fine,
talk
I'll
about
talk
the
to him.
propaganda like it's not
I
actually
appreciate that,
dangerous.
Commander.
Right?
My men and I
And this
need
is
to
sort of
refit
what
our
I've been
plan of
hinting
attack.
at the whole time.
It
We
will give us
talk
some
about
time.
propaganda like it's not actually dangerous.
Go ahead,
Like
Captain.
it's
We'll
fucking
come back soon.
full of shit.
We won't be long,
But it
Commander.
is
In the
dangerous.
meantime,
It is
if you need any
dangerous.
supplies, you can talk to Commander Rentola.
And I think it's
There's an
important to talk
armistice
about
nearby.
what's dangerous about it. Right? And we don't talk about in America on CNN we don't talk
I
about
wouldn't be so worried if it wasn't for Rex.
how
He's gonna blow a gas
the
mask.
genetic makeup of the Donetsk area is like 87% Russian or something. I don't know. I'm pulling a number out of my ass, right? But like when they first moved into that area, and when they first moved into that area was years ago, right? We're hearing
drop it.
about this
You'll be
war in
fine.
Ukraine
If
now.
you say so.
2020 is when it started.
If it's all the same to you.
Is 2020 when it started? Or 2021? I don't know about. But even years before that, like 2014, 2015, bro. Like people are in fucking. Rex is here? Why is Rex here?
This isn't right, Shepard. If there's a cure for the genophage, we can't destroy it.
Calm down, Rex. I'm not the enemy here. Saren's the one you should be mad at.
Ooh, hitting the vape.
Sarah, you need a cure for
Um,
my people. You want to destroy
Like we
it.
need to talk about the propaganda like it's actually dangerous, is what I'm
Lines
saying.
between friend and
And a
foe
lot of
are getting
what we
a little
talk
blurry.
about
Where
Ukraine
we stand.
is how stupid Putin is. And my point that I'm getting to is that in itself is propaganda. All right? There we go. I'm getting to it. Because we're not talking about what's actually going on. And that's actually Putin is manipulating a large portion of the Russian population in order to gain enough public support in order to continue this war. Right? We're talking about how stupid Putin is, how much he's fucking up, how much it's a failure. I don't know if Putin cares about winning the war. I think he cares about keeping the propaganda machine going. That's what I think they care about over there in the Russian oligarchy. Right? I think they care about keeping the propaganda machine going. And I think this war is so effective for that in Russia. Right? And especially because of how we talk about it in the westernized world. Because we are so quick to invalidate and basically just insult the Russian idea of war, right? That it's easy to see, it's easy to think that nobody's gonna listen to us, right? Like nobody in Russia who believes Putin is gonna listen to CNN because they're going, the war is a fucking failure for Russia. And in Russia, it's not a failure. Every life lost is okay because they're saving their fellow countrymen, you know? Like this is the lie that Putin has constructed, and I need to say that this is a very effective lie, right? And that's why I brought up Pat Tillman, because it disillusioned a lot of people not even that long ago here at home in America.
This isn't a cure,
Like
it's a
that's
weapon. And if Saren
that's
doesn't let
important
you use it, you won't be around to reap the
that we
benefits.
talk
None
about
of
that
us will.
right away rather
There's
than
a
just
chance we should be willing to
hop
take.
on our own
This is the fate
propaganda
of my
train.
entire people we're talking
And I
about.
still haven't said exactly what I want to, but I think I've said something that's
Destroy the
like
hopes of my people, and I'm
a
done.
conscious thought, right? Wait, what?
I can't let you jeopardize the mission.
So that's it. All this time, and that's all I get from you. How can you not see what this means to the Krogan? This base can't be destroyed. I won't allow it.
Shoot Rex? I'm not gonna shoot Rex.
These Krogan are slaves of Saren. Puppets. Tools to be used and discarded. Is that what you want for your people?
No, we were tools for the Council once. Thank us for wiping out the Rachni. They neutered us all. I doubt Saren will be as generous.
We did it.
All right, Shepard.
I'm not gonna shoot my
I
fucking
don't like this. but
dude,
I
bro.
trust you enough to follow your lead. Just one thing. When we find Saren,
We might replace
I
Tali
want
with Rex, bro, because I haven't talked to Ash all day, bro. We did it. We did a mission. Are you guys happy? We did that whole mission. and I don't remember any of it. So if I said anything of worth, let me know. And if I didn't, also let me know, because I would honestly love comments to respond to, Mao. I would love if anyone heard anything and thought like, oh, I got something that would help him sort out his ideas, bro. Because I feel like if I had comments to respond to, I would have like a list of things to talk about, and that would keep me on track. But we did it. We did a mission in 1 hour. In one episode, we did a whole fucking mission. We talked about Ukraine. We talked about propaganda. Like we fucking did it. Isn't that wonderful? And this fucking episode started off so fucking shit. So just want to throw in a few curse words there at the end, just in case he's still listening. Um, just to liven up your day. Just to liven up this video, really. And I want to keep going, but I'll end it here. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.